This interview is with Professor Doug Clarke. Doug is the Professor of Mathematics Education at the Australian Catholic University, Victoria. He has been a keynote presenter at the Australian Government Summer School for Mathematics Teachers, which was held at the University of New England in January 2008. Doug's undertaken to present 2 presentations here at the summer school, and this interview will actually address the first of those, which was entitled Middle Years of Schooling Issues. Doug, I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what was the main focus of your presentation.
Yeah, the focus was very much on challenging and engaging students in middle years mathematics. I talked about the fact that we are presented with a great challenge in middle years in teaching mathematics. So many of our students are disengaged with the subject. There's a lot of evidence that many students are not performing at the sort of level that we would hope they would, and so I was challenging the audience to think about different ways in which they might challenge and engage students in mathematics. So we talked about some of the strategies that I've been encouraging teachers to use. A simple one is to offer some choice to students in mathematics. So often in mathematics everyone does the same thing, and I've found when I've been trialling rich assessment tasks in classrooms, students respond very well to being able to choose which one they'd like to work on. Also related to that notion of giving a choice, trying to build on things that students are interested in. So to take things in the everyday experience of students or things that are in the newspaper and magazines, and try and show the way in which mathematics can make those come alive. So that was quite a bit of the stress of the presentation.
Right. And how is your presentation relevant to contemporary mathematics teaching?
Well, I think it would be a very unusual middle school mathematics teacher who wouldn't be facing this challenge of many disengaged students. And so I think lots of teachers talk to me about the fact that it's very hard to get students to share the passion which they have for mathematics. And so I think that's where the relevance comes in, that their teachers are saying to them, hey, maths is boring, maths is irrelevant. They're asking this question, why are we doing this? When am I ever going to use this stuff? And not that I believe everything that we do in the mathematics classroom should have a practical application, but I think a lot more, a higher proportion of what we do could than we currently do.
Right. Yes, I guess there's a real challenge always to motivate and interest students in what you're teaching, so I can understand that challenge. I'm just wondering what were the key ideas and messages that you would hope participants might take away from the summer school?
Okay, well I tried to give a number of examples of where I've taken, or teachers I've worked with have taken particular current events and used them with students. And to get them to think about what's happening at the moment that students might be interested in. For example, as we speak, there's been quite a cricket controversy in relation to the Australia and India cricket test match, and the question about are umpires doing an appropriate job, for example. Now there's all sorts of data available on umpires' performances in different countries around the world, and so I'm sure there would be some students who would be very interested to investigate, for example, in Australia, do more players, are a greater proportion of Australian batsmen or Indian batsmen given out LBW than in overseas situations and so on. So that might, not to say that all students would be interested in that, but there will be some that do. So to try and find things that are relevant to students. I think also I'm trying to encourage teachers to value students' methods more than they currently do. Many of my pre-service students at university who are training to be teachers say that when they were at school there was only one way to do maths. You had to do it the teacher's way or the textbook's way, and their methods weren't necessarily valued. And I'm trying to say to teachers, if we can value the methods that students use, and if they once again have some choice about the methods they use, they're more likely to understand them, more likely to use them, more likely to be confident about their own understanding of mathematics. So it comes back to that element of choice again.
Right. So I guess one of the measures for the success of the summer school will be how teachers actually go back into the school context and what change they might be able to implement there. I'm just wondering, are there any particular ideas that you think can be very readily transferred back into the teaching context?
I hope most of the things that I'm suggesting, the participants in the summer school could go back and lead a workshop around the same kinds of ideas and materials, because I'm providing them with quite a number of examples, things I've taken from the newspaper, current events, which they could use. But I also think once you have a kind of a mindset to look for these things, I'm hoping they can encourage their colleagues to do so as well. And I hope they go back and try some of these ideas with their students. The other thing that I'm pushing is to ask the students about the mathematics classroom in the middle years, to actually draw on the students' opinions about how we could make the mathematics class better than we currently do.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I've been involved a bit in the past, surveying students about how we could improve mathematics. And the other thing that I feel a very strong commitment to at the moment, I think one of the greatest problems we have in the middle years is caused by ability grouping in mathematics.
Right, yes.
I'm absolutely convinced that the research is clear in my mind that except for the very capable students, most students are disadvantaged by ability grouping. And I work frequently with teachers who say to me, oh, my students could never do that. I've got the support group, I've got the lower group, I've got the middle group. They wouldn't know where to start. And I think the ability grouping that we use, which I don't believe can be justified from research, is causing a lot of the negative attitudes and the problems. Ability grouping, by and large, even where schools claim it to be flexible, my experience is it's very hard for a student in a lower group to move out of that group because they're not experiencing the same content as other students.
Yes.
So ability grouping is an issue that's a very hot topic, but it's one that I think its time has come. It's time to go has come.
Yes, well, I know in the discussions that I've had with some of the teachers here, the thing that I hear about streaming is very much related to maths. If it doesn't happen in any other discipline, it should happen in maths. So it's an interesting comment that you've made, and one which I'm sure will cause a bit of debate and discussion.
I'm sure it will.
Yeah. Now, the summer school will put together a website, and there'll be resources that will go onto that will be available for teachers. Are there other resources or sites that people might visit that you think would help them in addressing this issue?
Yeah, I think they will have copies of papers that I've written. I think there's a number of materials that are distributed by the Australian Association of Mathematics Teachers, some of which I've had an involvement in. I think one of the things that I'm hearing that teachers are learning a lot about the professional associations at this conference that they perhaps weren't all aware of. And I think the resources offered by the Australian Association of Mathematics Teachers and the state branches are very key in this. I think any of the resources by the English author John Mason I would strongly recommend. But a number of other materials in which I've been involved are part of the AAMT. On the AAMT website, I think that's the best starting place.
Right. Well, thanks very much for your time today, and I'm sure that our viewers will be very interested in what you've been saying and interested to follow that through. Thanks very much.
Thank you.